Jack. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the January 26th, 2022 episode of the Cybersecurity Stream. I'm still just getting used to the years on this one, right? I can't believe that we've been at this for a year. Thank you. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. Happy Old Guy Wednesday. Welcome to all of our new joiners as well as our regular visitors. Real conversations with real people. That is direct from one of our guests. I'm so excited. I want to jump right into everything, but routine and everything. You can catch us here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on the Cyber and Security channel. You can also don't forget to catch our other streamers here on the Cyber and Security channel as well. You can see that we have fired back up our regular streamers as well as some new ones as well. So make sure you do check out the schedule on Discord for that. You can always hit exclamation Discord at any point in time to gain access to our Discord server. We really are here to have real conversations with real people about the state of cybersecurity and really elevate that conversation to a much, much broader audience. And we do this because we have a problem in our industry where we don't have real conversations about the cybersecurity industry or about the people in it or the companies that we're trying to protect. And because cybersecurity is an ever-changing landscape, our goal is to focus on multiple aspects of that industry. You, my friend, you are not out of your league on this channel. No matter how many years you've been in cybersecurity, no matter your discipline, red team, blue team, risk and governance, it does not matter. I promise. We are all here to discuss the industry impacts of the current landscape and the art of the possible when dealing with today's cybersecurity issues. And I couldn't be more pleased to have my guest, my panelist with me tonight to help us discuss some of those issues. So listen to me. Whether you're an experienced veteran, thank you so very much for tuning in. Thank you so very much for giving your advice to everybody in this channel. We really do truly appreciate it. Whether you are new to this field, thank you so very much for trusting us with your news outlet, your information outlet. We do appreciate it. We are so glad that you are here. Whether you barely know how to spell cyber or somebody who was born into cyber, this stream, this community, this team is for you. We're here for everybody to participate and learn from our community. With that in mind, I regularly try to have professionals from across the industry. I'll get into that here in a second. Until then, you have to deal with this guy over here. My co-host.
It starts early and often.
It does. I got to start with you early and often. I got to see. This is where I bring you in as the co-host, right?
It's like a preemptive strike.
Preemptive
I'm gonna
strike.
lay down the law before Jeff has a chance.
No, is that what it is? Is that what it is? You listen. Jeff was unruly in the green room. I might have to. We might have to do like the first ever co-host timeout on Jeff here in the green room.
Unruly.
Like,
have you been talking to my wife again? Like she would call me unruly a lot. I was just curious if
I'm not sure if that's an insult to your wife or an insult to me. Like I'm not sure. Like, are you telling me that we've gotten so close that I could talk to you now on that level? Because I don't really know how I feel about this.
Well,
no.
You know, when we have Carmen and you over.
Oh yeah.
It does have a tendency to get on a pick on Jeff fest.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
That's okay. That's fair.
That's okay.
That's fair.
Because Beth doesn't know half the things about cyber, and she's like, "Oh, I know how to pick on Jeff. There you go. Yeah, I can join in."
For everybody who's wondering what we do when we pick on Jeff, we have moderators for that to help Jeff. How'd you like that little segue? You like that one? That was pretty good, right?
Beautiful.
That was good, right?
Beautiful. Well done.
Well done. We do have moderators in chat, Jeff, and I want to personally thank my moderators each and every stream for their dedication. Listen, everybody throw some hype hands in chat for the moderators. Moderators are incredibly important. They are here to keep chat free of sexist, racist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. Picking on Jeff is not toxic behavior. Well, I mean, it's not when I do it or when Carmen does.
Fully condoned.
Fully condone picking on Jeff. Have you haven't checked the hidden content of your NFT yet, have you?
I have not.
I trust my moderators. You have to wait for somebody to do it. I trust my moderators explicitly, and their decision is final. If you are put on a timeout or ban, you appeal to the moderators. You don't appeal to me. Moderators are not here, however, Jeff, to stifle chat whatsoever. They're here to make sure that everybody's voice gets heard. This is a great time to remind everybody to make sure you are in Discord, so that if you are inadvertently timed out or banned, you can discuss that with said moderator. Be nice to my moderators. Be nice. With that being said, I'll be answering questions on stream. If you really want to hear from Jeff, Jeff will be answering questions on stream. But we know from past experiences who you really want to hear from tonight. And obviously, he will be here to answer questions on stream. Listen, your questions are very important to us. They are the prime value that comes from this stream being live. Nowhere else on the internet do you get to interact with two clowns like Jeff and myself and the massive amount of awesomeness that is about to come onto this stage right here, right now. And so we do ask that you ask your questions Anytime in chat, if you're like Fasochi, you can see that he just starts dropping in. I literally, Jeff, I've got 2 pages of Fasochi questions already for Joel.
So doesn't surprise me. He's got 3 more in the waiting.
He warned me. He warned me. He sent me a message. He's like, I got a list of questions, Neil, for tonight, and I was like,
I got a couple thoughts for you.
I got a couple thoughts for you. Like we may just we need to bring him on the show as like an interviewer and just like have him start interviewing people. Like he give him his own show or something. Gosh, he's got questions for days, dude. That dude's got questions for days. However, as you can tell from Fasochi, we only have one rule for questions, and that is that you ask your question only once. I promise you that we have a team of moderators that are in chat right now looking at the questions, trying to make sure that we get any and all questions answered on stream on our time together. We do try to answer as many as possible. We do broadcast via YouTube for our regularly scheduled broadcast, so make sure you do hit that like, hit that subscribe, head on over to the video section for all the videos that we got. We've got 157 videos now, Jeff. We're over the 157 marker on videos. Wow. Lots of good content out there. Hours and hours and hours.
What is the one that is hit most often? What subject matter?
We have a couple. The 1,000 Connect Challenge is our currently #1 ranked video. Okay. The second is actually
I use that all the time. That is my #1 thing I tell people when they say, I'm graduating from college. What should I do? Get 1,000 connections.
Yeah.
This month.
Yeah. Send them that video. That video is definitely the most popular. The next on the list is actually the first video that we got with Jeff. Or not Jeff, with Joel over a year ago, the Cyber Truth Bombs video. That is the next most popular video. So those are definitely the good ones that we've got. Bottom line is, hit that exclamation point socials. Follow us on all of our social media channels. We are, at the end of the day, here for you, the community. We do strive to bring you the most intriguing opinions, points of view, and conversations in the cyber industry every stream. You can tell from Jeff and I, as well as our guests, that we are nothing short of opinions and points of view that we have no problem sharing with any and all of you. We do appreciate all of our followers, all of our subscribers. First and foremost, I want to give massive thanks to our veterans for their service and sacrifice. Cheers. I'd also like to thank our partners in no particular order: Battleship Security, Attack IQ, Elastic, Query.ai, Net Abstraction, VMware, Carbon Black, and of course, At Root Beverages, which we have Jeff, they have challenged the community for tonight. I put a little bit of that challenge up on social media. We talked a little bit about it last week. Right now, typically you get a 20% discount with our discount code. They have given me 2 discount codes based on how many concurrent viewers we get on this stream. And so our 2 thresholds for concurrent viewers are 150 concurrent viewers. We can bump that up to 25% off. If we get over 200 concurrent viewers, I can get up to 45% off. So if you want 45% off your cases of root, we got to get some serious traction inside this stream. We got to get these views bumped up a little bit.
Well, I'll go get my son and daughter right now.
I'm waiting for the bot army. I need the bot army to be fired up. Yeah, we got to get the bot going. I want 45% off those cases of root. Gosh. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we do this for you, the viewers, and none of this would be possible without you. And so our biggest thanks goes out to all of you. We have been and we will continue to deliver you content as long as we can, and any and all proceeds earned on this stream go directly to contributing to the quality of the content and the giveaways. You know who we got coming up next.
Oh yeah.
You know who we got coming up next. I gotta find his LinkedIn page. For those who have not experienced the awesomeness of our guest for tonight, Joel Fulton is our guest, Jeff. What is your best memory of a Joel Fulton interview? Joel Fulton's been on here multiple times, but what's your best memory of a Joel Fulton interview?
It's got to be Garbage Jobs.
It's got to be Garbage Jobs.
The whole point is just work your tail end off and do the things that other people don't really want to do. That's how to show value. And it was a brilliant bit of insight. I loved it.
It's definitely had a lot of stickiness around the community, and we've definitely talked about that.
What about you? What about you? What's your favorite?
It's his story. It's his story of where he started, very hands in dirt, grit, type of background. truly wanting to get that PhD because it meant something to him growing up, that almost rags to riches story, that's something that resonates with me very, very well. And so like I love to hear people.
That's kind of your story too. I mean,
that's why
the
it
tail end off to get to where you are.
That's why it hits. That's why it hits different for me. So, would love to hear in chat if you've watched any of the Joel interviews. Drop some of your favorite Joel quotes or some of your favorite Joel nuggets of tidbits of information inside of chat. Joel is a true fan of this stream. He has been on with us for over a year, multiple occasions. Last year we had a friendly wager going on where he asked me to divulge some information. This was right before I joined the IND team on stream, and in return I forced him to create an internship that he gave away to somebody in our community. That ended up being a huge giant success, and I think they ended up offering Nathan a full-time job for that. He's done nothing short of just be utterly awesome. But outside of that, he's got an incredibly amazing background. Like, I love to talk about Joel's background, right? We're talking about a guy who I've been in information security his entire life, senior manager in IT audit and security for Starbucks, researcher, director of global security office for Symantec, global head of risk for Google, deputy chief security officer for Symantec, chief information security officer for Splunk, and now he is the CEO of his own company, Lucidum. Without any further ado whatsoever, hype hands in the air for the man, Joel
Word
Fulton.
number 2.
Welcome back, Mr. Fulton.
Delighted to be here. Good to see you. I feel like I'm home.
It's quickly becoming a home for you, isn't it?
Right? You're going to be charging me rent before long.
I know what your Series A money is. You can't afford rent.
And I do expect interim dining, so.
Right.
In the end.
The floor is yours, sir, if you'd like to say hello to our community and say a few words of awesomeness.
Man, it's good to be back. I am excited continually about what this community is doing, not only from the outside in, but for and to each other. I know several folks that are members of this and have seen them in the real world in new positions, one of whom moved across country to work for somebody who's a friend of mine. This is a community that is not just talking, but orienting, focusing, and building. And that's what I am really excited to be here, support, contribute, and learn from.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. We have obviously an awesome night set up for everybody tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of different things. We've got some news items lined up. We obviously have a ton of questions for chat. Want to continue to remind chat to drop those in there. We are going to do hopefully a couple of giveaways. Joel was a little bit hesitant when I first pitched the idea to him about doing his NFT. But once I pitched the idea to him, I was able to convert him over. What was the tipping point for you when it came to that?
Well, so really, it was when you explained that non-fungible had nothing to do with mushrooms.
Yes.
And I was like,
you're done. You're good for that. You're good for that.
Yeah.
It really freed up the rest of the conversation. Like, no mushrooms? I'm in.
I'm good. I'm good.
So I am on the, I'll call it realist, others call it cynical side of the NFT, I'll reveal my hand, Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
But what you are talking about and your use of the non-fungible token in the blockchain to include unlockable content, and not in this to hype, pump and dump, that I'm behind, and how you're doing it, I'm behind. So yes, I was converted in the space of that 30-minute conversation, and I'm all in.
That's cool. That's cool. So we truly do appreciate you, Joel, in joining us in this endeavor. So for those who don't know, you can hit the exclamation point NFT. It'll take you to our OpenSea account where we have created baseball cards for our guest on the stream, to include my lovely co-host Jeff and tonight's guest, Mr. Joel Fulton. These are purely collectible. We do these, and again, it's only if my guest agrees to it, and we want to do this as a form of collector's item for folks here. Every NFT does have unlockable content. I won't click this to reveal the unlockable content. Joel has agreed that his unlockable content is a 2-hour mentor session every quarter for the owner of the NFT for every quarter of 22. And so I really do, Joel, from me, my community, I do truly appreciate you offering that out there. We will do the giveaway for your NFT a little bit later on. And so I really do appreciate you being open-minded to the utility use of how we use NFTs, for allowing us to use your likeness, and for agreeing to, as always, give away your wisdom and knowledge to the rest of the community.
Thank you for inviting me in here, man. Really appreciate this.
First question right off the bat.
If a deal makes $18 million off of your NFT, that's not a bad thing either.
Here's to the Critics Club.
Yeah. No, I got nothing to say to that. I'm like, if there's a person, and I think I've said this before, if there's somebody in our audience that has $18 million that they're willing to throw away on an NFT, we got to have a different conversation. Like, let's have a different conversation outside of the stream.
Yeah, you need an 8-bit version.
You're their own custom one.
Right. Right. Looks like we have the first question coming through from the mods from Oh We Spicy. Joel, I literally work as a free intern, and I will literally work as a free intern and Uber you coffees to your office. Do you need a free intern that Ubers you coffees to your office, Joel?
That's passionate. Get that NFT and let's work on getting you something that's paid and not an internship.
There you go.
That passion.
That's awesome. You have an amazing following. You people legitimately love you here on this stream. It's one of the joys of always having you here.
That's so kind.
Tonight, we obviously have a ton of questions. We're going to let the questions continue to roll in. But Joel, you had something that we talked about in the green room that you wanted to start with.
Yeah, I thought it's interesting, particularly in people that are building their careers or building the next level of the career. One of the prompters that often folks are led to is to volunteer. And sometimes that volunteering manifests itself as contributing to open source projects, contributing to security open source projects, in fact. And you see that perhaps as a lead into DevSecOps, and you can build a body of work and a portfolio, and it builds credibility for you. So 2 weeks ago, there was an open source developer who had built and maintained colors.js and Faker, which generates fake data, which is useful for creating applications and databases, etc. And this individual was tired of his work being absorbed into commercial products sold for a profit and receiving no remuneration, no credit, no nothing. And so he went into the source, his, maintained on GitHub, and he changed it to create an infinite loop. And these companies who, without credit or remittance, were automatically, like a Hoover, sucking the updates to his software up, all of a sudden were under a denial of service attack. That's what all the news.
Wow.
GitHub locked him out and then realized, oh, we got to let him back in to let him restore the original version. And all of the recommendations that have come out of this from code security companies have been either pin the update to the prior version or switch platforms. Now think about that from a security perspective. Security companies are telling you don't update your software, or just lift and shift and rebuild your software from scratch. Not going to happen. But this does reveal and has since this growing unrest really within the open source community that we're doing this work and we thought we were going to get some credit for it, and we're not getting anything for it at all except a demand to maintain it and a demand to bug fix it, etc. That, I thought, is pretty interesting topic to explore. How much of your volunteering is furthering your efforts? How much is altruistic? And then beyond that, how much would be taken advantage of? Seems like a topic for conversation.
Well, let's pull on that thread, but I want to pull on a different one other than the volunteering side of things, right? Because open source software utilization has had an interesting journey, especially in the cybersecurity and the IT space throughout, right? I'm sure you can remember, Jeff can remember, like to go into an IT organization and say, we're going to use this open source project for whatever it is, small, medium, or large. there was no tolerance for that. Zero tolerance. People wanted reliability. They wanted SLAs. They wanted regular updates. They wanted everything. And to see where we're at now, where open source has become so predominant, and I think for me, what I remember is, you remember Heartbleed with the SSL vulnerability years ago. I think that was the first real shocker moment that a lot of us had, that we're so dependent on open source code and open source libraries and open source projects to underpin so much of what we do in the IT and the security space. That I don't think we've realized how dependent we've gotten on that. And to your point, now you've got projects out there that are supporting billion, multi-billion, $100 billion organizations, $1 trillion organizations, maybe even in some cases, and nobody's getting credit for it. Nobody's paying for it. Nobody's fact checking that stuff. Nobody's doing anything with that type of code.
So there was the split. So us old guys, is this Old Guy Wednesday?
Yeah, okay. We're still on Old Guy Wednesday.
So remember that in good wrinkly.
His what's that? Your dementia's kicking in.
Where am I?
Senility.
So
jump in. The water's warm.
For reasons that you shouldn't have.
Really, the first phase is the hardest. Once you get beyond that, it's like,
I think everybody
it matters.
The truth of Neil's statement that Jeff was unruly in the green room. He's unruly out of the green room.
I'm gonna get sent back to the green room now, aren't I? I'm sorry.
No. It's redeflected over at Joel. It's okay. It's all right. It's not
right. No longer crossfire. So Stallman and the new public license, GNU, was contagious. So you take my free software and you put it in something else, that becomes free too. It's constrained by the same license that my software had when you absorbed it. That's not the licensing scheme that's on most open source software. And so I think that effort by Stallman and Group to prevent this from happening was valuable. But you were right, Neil. I have been questioned by OCC examiners regarding the due diligence I did before adopting SSH, before adopting other open source software. So that was the level of scrutiny that occurred there. And now that open source software has been bundled by commercial vendors who then sell it as their own. And with Log4j, and with SolarWinds, and with Exchange, like all these, not to rattle all of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, this is software supply chain security. Do you know whether your vendor software is secure? Well, the only way they can tell you is if they know whether the dependencies are. And that, I think, has come to the fore here as well.
Do you think that we have...
And all the dependencies were not really being looked at from that perspective. They're not looking at it from that lens. And so to say, oh, yeah, we're secure, well, the weakest link is the initial code that never really cared, right? They're just writing code.
What do you say to all the zealots, though, who are like, well, it's open source. We can see all the code on GitHub. Like, you should be relying on the community to tell you, whether this is good code or bad code, because obviously everybody out there in the world is checking everybody's code at every single point in time to make sure it's not malicious.
So I'm going to be careful with a war story here.
Okay.
But the situation I'm describing is no longer the case. I worked for a place that had an app marketplace. And vendors, individuals, could create apps that would run on top of the software that my employer provided. And when they did so, that application was a link to their repository. So we would security review, test, and assess that before approving it. But we never did a CRC check because we wanted them to update the software. And so we would not break it every time. But that meant there was the ability to submit valid software, get approved, and then replace it with something else that would automatically be sucked up into that ecosystem. So, yes, you've got tens of thousands of people with eyes on software. That doesn't affect the conversation.
What does affect the conversation?
The understanding of what software am I ingesting, adding to my system, and what are the cumulative vulnerabilities and individual vulnerabilities. That level of scrutiny is so very rarely done. It's not done by Microsoft. We didn't see it done by SolarWinds. It's very rarely done.
How is this indistinguishable from the age-old conversation about about software asset inventories, right? Just as equally as hard as hardware asset inventories are, software asset inventories have been equally as disastrous in most organizations as well. But now I think you're talking about, this isn't just about saying, well, you've got Tanium or you've got SolarWinds or you've got something else like that. You need to have a detailed documentation of every GitHub repository, every binary, every library that you use across your enterprise.
And that's why, and Jeff, here's your acronym for this evening. We have the wonderful acronym SBOM, the Software Bill of Materials.
Ooh.
Right? And that's a thing, this SBOM and regulations for and constructs on what needs to be validated, vetted, and how frequently. The problem with a build of materials in software is, well, we're releasing code every 2 hours.
Right.
We're releasing it continuously. How do you maintain a living build of materials and validate it faster than the one-to-many relationship of you and all the developers who are agilely releasing every hour? That becomes a logarithmically difficult problem.
Okay, so you've spread a lot of doom and gloom, obviously, on everybody else.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I mean, yeah. Thanks for ruining everybody's evening. I appreciate that. What is the answer to this? Like, holistic. Don't you tell me technology, because I might cut you from the stream if you tell me technology. Because you know me, I'm process first, then technology.
I think it's AI, isn't it?
Jeff.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
You had a 50-50 shot. You had a 50-50 shot, and you went for AI.
No, I had a 50-50 shot, and I made sure it was 100% by giving you both.
I'll take the other 50%. The answer is zero trust.
Oh, God.
So I think we've covered.
And XDR? Come on, let's add XDR in for fun. Good.
So, Neil, what
are the That's it. Cut. We're done. We're out.
Neil knew in the green room it was going to be one of those nights.
One of the coolest answers to this. So you said before tech, you've got process. And I think this is an interesting answer that somebody's proposed. That is the people. And so there's 2 startups that I know of, and they're really new. And what they're doing is building reputation indexes of developers. And they're using that as the criteria for grading the software.
That sounds dangerous.
It's interesting. So if you take somebody's handle...
No, I said dangerous. I didn't say interesting. I said dangerous.
It's character building.
It's interesting and potentially dangerous.
Potentially dangerous. So think about a reputation of a developer.
Yeah.
And it contributing to the reputation of the code that he or she contributed to. Typically not alone, but with others. And so now that code inherits the reputation of the developers in that environment. That is their proposal to begin to risk assess, kind of like a threat feed, to risk assess the software that's coming in. Now that is contextless. We don't know what data it has, where it sits in the stack, et cetera. And that's where DevSecOps really needs to have more sec in the DevOps.
I guess my problem with reputation-based systems is they can be gamed.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
They are.
Look how I got invited to your show.
Self-deprecation works really well too. I mean, you are here with 2 other old guys.
Yeah, exactly. You were in with self-deprecation.
So I think that's always been my problem with reputation-based systems. I mean, Google is the easiest example of reputation-based systems that could be gamed, right?
Yep.
Any type of review system out there, Yelp can be gamed, right? And so, like, I guess that's where I think the dangerous part is, somebody who's got an entire bot army, at their disposal could 100%. Artificially inflate the reputation of a malicious code repository.
Yep, like my Twitter followers.
Well, the thing is, what's in the algorithm that determines the reputation? How is that reputation being vetted initially? Right?
So who's doing that? The reputation connection here is not, do I like this person? It is, did we find bugs in their code that they had contributed to? And so the reputation is inherited from the work you've created.
Interesting.
So that was the algorithm that they're working on. Now, one of the things that I enjoy about security is that although there's never an answer, it's all about converting the game from roulette to poker. Just shift the odds enough, right? Poker, roulette, the house has a 6% chance of beating me. Mm-hmm. On poker, I control my odds better, and I can know what hands I'm in or out of. So to me, valuable management of security is really about odds. How can I shift the odds so it's 51% in my favor? Because now I got over time the ability to start to win. So I know it's not an answer, but it is an interesting approach to shift some of those odds.
It is definitely an interesting approach. Looks like we got a comment from Frederick Kotz about your software bill of materials. He said, so SBOMs aren't living documents. When a software release is cut, a static and signed SBOM is cut.
That's right. That's the difficulty, because the SBOM isn't living. And that you got those teams of agile developers that are updating and continuously deploying new software. That SBOM is out of date pretty much the minute that it's cut. So now how do I do my due diligence when I'm looking to see what is the net vulnerability of the feeds into and the compiled product? That's the difficulty. He's right.
Well, and then on top of that, right, to your point about, it's as soon as it's cut, it's changing next. What about all the stuff that they're standing up random EC2 instances to test in dev, right? What about, hey, there's this new, framework out there for doing front ends that I want to test out and see if it's any good, right? That's out there. So they're constantly pressing the envelope on new technologies. How are you able to keep up with that from like a dev QA prod perspective in addition to everything else?
That's right. That's right. When really we don't have QA and prod anymore.
Yeah.
I've got dev pushing right. Yeah. So you're right. The problem is very difficult.
Are we seeing the increase of risk in software development because of the demand for more agile and maybe accelerated software application deployment processes? Because we've always known that application, security issues have existed, but we've been able to control that in a very, very waterfall development type fashion. Now, with how fast we're expected to go to market with software, software deployments, it seems like we're so far behind security-wise on what it is that we need to do for this.
Yeah, I would layer in a couple of things. I would play improv and say yes and. Yes, if we had a stop check before release, waterfall, I'm going to get better security as an outcome, odds-wise. The second bit is now developers are incentivized for features, not fixes. And that's why you see bugs on the back burner. And third, most environments, the developer is not responsible for their own bug fixes. There tend to be a separate team or there tend to be a separate project. And so you disconnect responsibility. And then on top of that, you've got, we'll push it out and see what happens. And so you stack those things together and it's kind of nobody's fault because we're all in it.
So you're sitting at the CISO's table right now. You're looking at a massive e-commerce platform, or you're looking at a desktop app. You're looking at something that handles financial transactions, and you're looking at the digital innovations team, and you're looking at all these problems that exist.
Yeah,
as a CISO, what are your top 3 strategies that you're doing to try to get security baked into that conversation?
Yeah, that's excellent. So, your question was really precise. What am I doing to get security into that conversation? I'm making friends, I'm understanding their goals, and I'm demonstrating how I can contribute to their accomplishment of their goals.
How does a CISO contribute?
You're making their life easier in some way.
Yeah, because like, what are CISOs, right? We're the Department of No. That's what everybody thinks, right? Hey, can I know? I'm the CISO. That's what I say. No. And so if you have to.
So now that you've got a PhD, does that make you Dr. No?
Oh,
wow!
We went dad joke and everything.
Wow,
whoa, Jeff. God,
oh, come on! You got a PhD. You got to own that too.
Hey, mods, can you make a note to myself that we're gonna pull down Jeff's NFT? We're gonna send that one to the delete address.
Well done. That's well done.
But that all sounds great on paper, and I love that answer, and I don't have a problem with that answer. But how are you making their lives easier? Like, what is it that makes? Because if you're prioritizing features instead of bug fixes, time is always of the essence, and developers are always behind time. Security, the Office of No, is always taking more time because we want to stop to do a pen test, we want to stop to do a code review, we want to stop to do an architecture assessment. How are you, like, you're already starting on the back foot of having that conversation?
Yeah. So remember, this is an odds problem, at least the way I see it, not a winner-take-all problem. So I'm looking to fight like a boa constrictor, not like a rhinoceros. So in these conversations, it is So they have a goal. So that the head of development, your CPO, your CTO, he or she have a goal. And that goal is not to release software. That goal is we've got product functionality that we've committed that we've tied to revenue, or that is their goal. And that's the intersection that I look to connect with, because that's the true goal. They don't want to end up with a piece of software that embarrasses the company, has a bad reputation, spends the next 2 cycles trying to fix things because they missed that window. That's the true goal. And so that's where I can connect with you. Now, because that's our true goal, there's some sub goals that your team has that we got to talk about and probably shift. And that is
How
not
many DevOps people do you believe have that perspective, though, that the code that they write isn't about the feature that they get bonused on, but it is about the company reputation and then the feature?
so.
Are they getting that in perspective, do you think?
I think about this like OKRs, and so OKRs they came from Intel, and they are a way of taking objectives and key results that the CEO has, and then she devolves those into her directs, and they have OKRs that are subordinate to that one, and then they flow down. And so I would not expect, if I were an engineer, that my OKR would be identical to the CEO's. Mm-hmm. But I expect to be able to trace that up there. So my OKR has nothing to do with revenue. But my boss should have an OKR that shows how the quality of my code contributes to her goal, which contributes to revenue, and I ought to see that straight line. So when that's in place, it makes it easy for engineers to have that goal. So I don't think it's their job to make that their goal. I think it is the leadership's job to ensure there's a direct line of sight to that goal, and then they can have it.
Makes sense. So really, what we're really talking about is being able to. I hate to pull out the ROI acronym, but the up and down the chain, there has to be that breadcrumb trail. This is your impact to business. This is 100%. Where your stuff is going to ultimately further the CEO's goal.
Yeah. And I think this problem is definitely real, because CISOs that I've talked with are like, I've had 2 in the last 3 months who have said, how do I get my dev team to think about security? Like, I'm not talking like embed security up front or anything like that. Like, how do I even get them to think about it? And I don't know if you can, but I think you can start setting up some programs, some methodologies, some workflows, and Neil, yes, technology that will help automate that process, where security is being thought about automatically while they're developing, so that it helps them publish faster because they don't have to wait downstream for a security review. Yeah,
fair. I bet in your role, Jeff, you care about the security of Carbon Black as a product itself.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Without being rhetorical and not ambushing you, would you articulate why?
Really, I think it's a threefold answer. The first and foremost is reputation. Like, if I go to a new company and say, hey, trust me, we are going to help keep you safe from cyber attacks, and they pull out, news, and it's newsfeed after newsfeed of, security vulnerability, blah, blah, blah. Thank God that isn't the case, because that's a really difficult conversation to get over, because what I do is all about trust. Like, I have to be able to walk in and say, I believe wholeheartedly that I will help you, which I do, it makes my job easy, right? I am not a selling, ice to Eskimos kind of salesperson. I have to believe 100% that I'm doing the right thing for them. And I do. And so that's critical. That's number one. I would say the second piece is, I like the knowing that I'm doing good stuff. And so it's motivating to me personally, so that, like, I avoid the negative stuff. That's my first comment. The second one is really about motivating me positively of, yes, I'm doing some good stuff, and I know I am helping. And the code itself is constantly iterating, yet we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're not doing harm. I can get behind that. That excites me, right? And the new things that we're creating, And really, the third thing is how we fit into the ecosystem around us, right? And so, if I help companies with their workflow and I help them speed the process because I fit into that technology bucket over here that automates some of that workflow, that's a really good feeling to help the customer speed to market in a secure fashion.
So if I take your answers,
those would be my answers to your
I
specific
like
question.
them. I thank you. So if I took your answers, and as you were talking, I was trying to find one word that represented each of those answers. The first I put down is trust, and it sounded like, if I infer this correctly, it's whether you're trustworthy, even more than whether your employer is trustworthy. It's very personal the way you described it. Is that fair? Is there a balance there?
It's both. I don't think you can extricate trusting me from trusting who I represent. Like it's
Okay.
100%.
it's a
Otherwise,
both
why would
and.
you work for them?
Yeah.
Right, but I think that's me personally. I have to believe in the company that I work for.
Yeah.
So I think it's one and the same. Just because I refuse to work for a company I don't believe in and don't trust.
Cool.
I think some companies and some people could get by with saying, "Well, that's two different things. It's not different."
Not you though.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second one I summarized as meaning. Is that fair?
Mhm.
And the third I
Absolutely.
put community.
Mhm.
The helping so here's the question that I've got. If we're talking, so that's you, but I've found that's also software engineers. They want trust, they want meaning in their work, and they want that sense of community. And what we tend to do when we hammer on people to write better, more secure code is we're hammering on the source, the center of their pride. Like they're good at their craft and they want to be seen as being good at their craft. But often what's missing is you didn't get their hearts. And the connection between what I'm producing and this trust, meaning, and community that I desire, you haven't created for them. The management hasn't created for them. They don't see it. And so what I've found in areas that have worked is if you can get that emotion connected to the head work that's happening, the results are a lot better than trying to put more rules in place and et cetera. So I don't think you're different from an engineer in terms of if I gave you trust, meaning, and community, would that make you love your job? And would you start finding things that you didn't if you didn't have trust? Yeah, you would. So
Yeah, I think most HR directors would call that, this is our culture,
Yeah.
right? And I think they
Yeah,
would
but
take a
culture's
look at
for
everything
yogurt.
you just said, but but I think that nice. And you give me grief for bad dad jokes. Come on, you just let that one slide, Neil.
That's because you're on my territory. It's my territory.
That one wasn't that bad.
Neil?
See, look at that. See?
Man, pandering.
Oh God.
Whatever.
That's an
But no,
interesting.
I think that helps with the culture for your for the salespeople as well as the engineers. How do I especially right now with COVID and everyone's remote? How do I build culture and community when it's really hard to hey, let's grab a beer after work? Like there's none of that, right?
But I think but I think what I like about the way that Joel phrased it, right, is I think culture is overplayed in our
100%.
HR conversations, right? Oh, hey, tell me about your culture. Oh, it's awesome, right? Or does your company have culture? The answer is yes. But did you notice that while you were explaining stuff, Joel was writing down his takeaways from yours? I don't think I'm trying to think back of every single time I've ever sat with an HR person and for them to say hey Neil, why do you want this job? And for them to sit down and actually write out what their interpretation of what I wanted this job was, to see if they could determine if I was a cultural fit for their company. And I think that's the point that Joel's trying to make is we're not listening to, in this case, software developers, but I would argue that same type of listening process isn't happening even on most of the the cybersecurity side either, to where we actually really do understand the culture that we're trying to build as a company versus the culture of the people that we're trying to hire to come and be as part of our organization, let alone the original thing that started this conversation was how do we connect with software developers to bring more security into that conversation? We've lost all of that because we just aren't listening to people.
Yeah.
So how do you build that? Like you're a software company. How do you build that with your teams?
Oh man. So the garbage jobs thing, that's me.
Go back to my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, it's me. But there's little moments that are cool. We have amazing software engineers, and one of them's been with us since we were dreaming of this. And when he went to the customer, because he was our SE, right? There's 5 of us. What are you going to do? And when he went to the customer and saw them go, wow, this is amazing, that checked off his trust, meaning community. From my perspective, right? He's not the kind of person that would use those, but from my perspective. And then when they said, it'd be great if it could do this, or I don't like this bit about it. Now he's got direct feedback, right? There's no interruption in the feedback cycle. Do you like what I built or don't you? It doesn't go through a director to the CTO, to the marketing team, to sales, to the AE, to the customer. It never reaches back. So nobody can have that because everybody wants to have bigger than a 4-person company. So I think what Neil said is important. It's the connection between people. And so when you're Carbon Black and you're a lot bigger than 4 people, I don't think the answer changes. I think shortening the latency of those connection links, I'm nerding out a little bit on you here, and making sure that feedback gets there, that changes people's lives. And so the more ways you can find to do that, to make it personal, that's what I would want.
And by the way, it has worked magic for both the customers I've brought into this relationship, as well as the engineers, the software developers I've brought into these relationships, where I connect them. Like at Carbon Black, I've done that, and both sides win.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, it's not something that's very common in a lot of these larger software companies. I see it all the time in companies that are your size and a little bit larger. But I think over time, they lose the way of saying, oh, but this would be cool. I'm just going to go do that. Well, did you ever check back to see if that really cool thing was going to hit the mark with the customer? Or if you tweaked it 0.5% up front, it would really hit the mark, and you're mostly missing it as a result of not checking in with them. And I think those are some things that a lot of software companies, including our own, would benefit way more if we did more often.
But I want to piggyback on a little bit of that, because I think Joel did hit on something that I actually think is probably more systemic of a problem than anything else. We can look at small companies like Lucidum, Query.ai, INE, Carbon Black when it was younger in its younger days, right? Bit9 back in the day, right? A lot of these smaller companies, it's easy for us to talk about building connections and having tight relationships and building community and helping people take pride in their project. I don't know who's to blame, and I'm not in the game of pointing fingers, but I think you and I have had this conversation about Patrick. Patrick has noticed this. He had to get involved with some incidents at Carbon Black a couple years back, right? Where you lose that sense of that community. You lose those connections as you get bigger. And I don't know of any company that has been successful at maintaining that type of software development relationship, let alone a security relationship, once they've passed a certain threshold.
What is that threshold?
I don't think anybody knows.
I think from your experience, like when do you see it like starting to, like I see
200 employees.
200 employees is where it makes it really hard.
Joel, I don't know if you agree or disagree. I think 200.
I've got floating around in my head somewhere one of those sociological studies about the maximum effective size of a community where people still know each other by the first name, and that 200 number seems reasonable to me. Yeah.
That's still a small company when you look at most organizations now. I mean, I love the cyber and security community. We've got 4,000 people in our Discord. With 900 to 1,000 people who are online at any given time. I'm lucky if I can remember 200 people's, personal interactions, and that doesn't count my own social interactions that I have on my other social platforms. I couldn't imagine being in a company that had, there was 150,000 at the life sciences company that I worked with. I probably knew maybe 100, if that, of the people in that life sciences company. I think once you're past a certain point, the process part of culture takes over, and you lose the personal connections that make for valuable communication in security, software engineering, architecture and design, across the board.
I concur. And when you turn it into a manufacturing plant, and when you incentivize the reduction of human connections.
Yeah.
So I think that 200 is the right tipping point.
Yeah.
And to let that go, there's a level of chaos that you are willing to accept. So at Splunk, earlier days, there was a group that were called the under 300s. And they were the employees who had an employee number of 300 or less. And we were at 6,500 employees at the time. But that under 300s, they were the flywheel. They were the core. They'd seen it since the beginning. And in the beginning, they were the ones that talked with customers, and they were the ones that were, and they kept that. They demanded that. They didn't ever want to let that go. And so what you had there was a kind of a molten core inside of a shale firmament that was process and bureaucratic. Mm-hmm. We had a little bit of both in there. And where they connected, there was often friction, but having that under 300s kept that sense. There was always, the sainted hermit on the mountain that you're like, that's who we'd really rather be. Mm-hmm. And so that exemplar was there. But I think 200 is the right number.
I know did anyone that was not in the initial 300 ever break in?
Nope.
Ooh. Never happened.
Nope.
I believe that. I don't think that's ever the case. You never get inside that inner circle of the first few that were inside the company. I know there was a little bit of a rabbit trail. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that rabbit trail a little bit. Jeff, I know that you had a super important one that you were actually dying to talk to Joel about when we were talking earlier. Do you want to kind of talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, I just look at the start of the year as a great time to reflect on, what you did last year and what you plan to do this year, right? And I'd love to figure out from the community, what are the things that are the strategic initiatives from your CISO level down, how that translates to you as an individual contributor or a manager. I'm just kind of curious, is it still like Log4j and dealing with some of that stuff, or is it, okay, yeah, we've dealt with the majority of that, now it's all just check boxes and make sure that the things that we figured out that we needed to do. So it's no longer a strategy. It's more like, okay, check the box. It's done. It's a completed project. But what are the initiatives? What are the strategies that leaders in security are really focused on right now?
So I'll be controversial, and I'll send people to go LinkedIn bomb Yaron Levy. And Yaron is the CISO at Dolby. And if you connect with him on LinkedIn and tell him he has to accept because he owes me a favor, we'll see what happens.
Can I get a mod to drop that link for that LinkedIn?
That would be awesome. Yaron is fantastic, and the reason I want to introduce him virtually to this group is his passion is exactly what you talked about, Jeff. And then Jeff, you split that conversation between strategy or you just checking boxes. And one of the things that Yaron specializes in consulting and talking with other CISOs is asking them, do you really know what strategy is? Is that a strategy, or is that just your list of tasks for this year? Mm-hmm. And when you ask that question, and people say, well, of course it's my strategy. Didn't you read the title of my PowerPoint? And then you get into detail. It's meaningful. Right. It changes people's lives when they realize what I'm doing as CISO is I'm doing the same thing as manager, because it worked as a manager. And then I did it as a director, and nobody noticed it wasn't what a director should do, and so it worked. And so now here I am as CISO. I'm going to keep doing the manager things, which is, okay, let's get swim lanes, and let's get project plans for the year. Mm-hmm. That's got nothing to do with strategy, brother. So I think that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Very good question.
So what are strategies that you think security folks should be worried about for 22?
So let me define what I mean by strategy,
Yep.
and then I'll give you my
I was
answer.
just going to ask you to define strategy versus tactical.
Okay. So to me, strategy are decisions and actions and behaviors that you choose that put you in a position to have better options for your subsequent decisions, actions, and behaviors. That's it. So if I am thinking strategically, I'm thinking about what can I do now that puts me in a spot tomorrow that I got more options, that are more better options. Sorry for the bad grammar.
I love that. More better.
More better. So
Better.
So what in order to know what position I wish to be in tomorrow, I got to understand the position I'm in today. And so I'm going to now stereotype CISOs. People really struggled with Log4j after really struggling with SolarWinds.
Yeah.
After
A year prior.
really struggling with Exchange. Like people are going, I can't find the SolarWinds systems in my environment. And then you're like, okay, did you solve that problem? I sure did. I solved that problem.
It's Groundhog Day.
I can't find. And you think to yourself, you realize, like, if everybody you meet is unpleasant, you might be the person that's unpleasant.
If everyone has a problem, it might be you.
If everybody else is secure, maybe it's you, or insecure,
Right?
maybe it's you.
Right. Like the guy that went to his doctor says, Doc, when I do this, it hurts. When I do this, it hurts. When I do this, it hurts. What do you think's wrong? Well, your finger's broken. That's our loss.
That's a good one right there. That is a good one right there.
So you didn't solve your problem when you had SolarWinds issue, because your problem was, don't know where my stuff is. You didn't solve it with Log4j because you didn't know where your stuff is. So strategically, the position I can be in to make better decisions is know where my stuff is. That's one example. Other positions, like right now, people are having a hard time hiring and retaining folks. And companies don't want to admit it, because after all, if I'm doing the hiring, I'm clearly better than you. It's kind of, why am I having a hard time hiring and filling roles? Strategically, I would want to know, what can I do today so that tomorrow I have less of a hard time hiring people? And so I would look at those root things, Neil, and say, tomorrow, what decisions, behaviors, and actions can I or my team have taken that put us in a better position to answer the same question a quarter from now, a year from now? And those tend to be real basic things, because no one's ever done basic things.
Do you think that that's? I want to piggyback on that to say, do you think that that's to the same point about the finger and it hurts when I do this and things like that? Because nobody's ever told them what the real problem is. They don't know what the real problem is.
I think this is the DevOps problem. And that is, I'm not paid to solve basic problems as a CISO.
Ooh.
I'm paid to show you the sweet new tech I deployed and this cool graph. And I think it's a matter of incentives. And you give me bad incentives for long enough, and I forget why it was that I got into this business and what I knew to be true. That's what I think is one of the root causes here.
You don't pay me enough as CISO to do the basic stuff.
Yep.
I'm letting that one marinate, because I want to agree and I want to disagree at the same time.
Well, how do you not agree when you say the number one thing that people just need to do is patch? Just patch your systems.
No,
Right?
I don't disagree with that, but I'm saying from the view of the CISO, are you hired and then you go in there and you say, well, I'm not expected to solve the simple problems. To Joel's point, I'm expected to bring in the flashy new technology and say zero trust XDR, whiz bam boo bobble thing is going to solve all your security issues for you. Because I have seen my share of CISOs that have very much exemplified that example when they've gone into organizations. Like, I'm here, boom, let's shake this place up. And they treat it like a rave party that they just want to drop in, new money, new cars, new champagne bottles, and everything else like that before, to Joel's point, fixing the simple stuff.
So you get the most friction pushback obstacles trying to fix simple things. You get the least amount of friction and the most amount of notice doing chasing the shiny objects. And so intrinsically, real war story, when I interviewed at Splunk, I had a super boss there. And I got the sense I can be honest and play in the sky. And if I'm going to go here, I'm going to have to be honest and play in the sky. So before they made the offer and I accepted, but kind of when you reach the point where you know that, like, I'm going to take you home to meet my family, kind of thing. So when I felt we reached that point. I said, listen, if we're going to go farther, I need you to know, I need to ask a favor of you. And that favor is this. I need you to accept me looking lazy and incompetent for 2 years. And he had a great sense of humor and he was witty. And like, all right, what are you talking about? And he says, well, as I've interviewed with people, it's pretty clear to me. You don't know what you have. It's not quarantine. You're not tracking data. You're not patching systems. And I'm going to start doing that stuff. That's going to be my breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look lazy because you think all that stuff's been done. You have no reason to, but you think it's been done. So I'm going to look lazy. Number two, while I'm doing this, I'm going to discover all kinds of bugs in the walls. We're going to have more incidents than you'd ever imagined we'd have. So I'm going to look incompetent. But after 2 years, then we can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And he got it, supported it, and didn't just support it in that conversation, supported it through the time that he was there. That was a difference maker. The problem I wanted to face is my frustration with, we know you're going to be here 18 months. So just try not to embarrass anybody but yourself. It's going to be.
So it looks like we got a question from California, kind of when you were explaining some of the CISO stuff.
Hey,
yeah, you
nice
remember?
from you.
Yeah. It's our South Korean buddy.
Yeah.
He says, is Joel saying that CISOs aren't part of the risk management and risk landscape?
I'm saying that every CISO's first concern is their personal risk management.
I would agree with that.
And so the way that manifests...
Before you say the way it manifests, talk about why it's their own personal risk management, because I think that's important.
Yeah, so nearly, with very few exceptions, nearly every CISO that I've ever talked to in the first 90 days of their job, they like, on a Zoom call, this is going to be the last job I ever hold. This is going to ruin my reputation forever. I can't believe I took this job. How do you get through this? Like it's your 90 days. You just can't believe they lied to me. They said it was all good. I just can't believe it. What do I do? People don't want to come here because they know what it looks like. Like that's what the CISO goes through. And so what I mean by personal risk management is that CISO is going, okay, hold on a second here. What do I do to get out of this and not smell like this?
Yeah.
And that's like number one concern. And so what you need to handle that is I need the people I work with to like me and be a good reference. I need to make friends with customers because that might be my bridge out. That's what I want to do. And I can't have anything at the Wall Street Journal. Those are my main concerns. Now, with those as the average CISO's main concerns, at what point do you say, and so I'm going to start patching systems? Like that's hard for people to make that leap.
It's the opposite direction from the fire escape, for sure.
I would rather go on Instagram and apply filters than eat broccoli and do push-ups.
Wow.
I can't argue with that, right? Because I do the simple stuff first. I almost said the other S word. Do the simple stuff first because it is cyber hygiene 101. But yes, the demands on you to be like, cool, we just hired a CISO. This place is about to get shaken up. Yeah. Like I've seen that. Yeah,
you walk in, you swipe your badge, and you can hear Janet Jackson singing, "What have you done for me lately?"
Yeah,
and it's a drive.
You said it.
Resist it. If you can lead, you can win.
I think you said it on one of the past streams, and I think that's an analogy that always stick with me, is that we've allowed the industry, whether it's the cybersecurity industry or every industry we've ever gone to work for, to view CISOs as they're going to manage all the risk. They're going to mitigate all the risk for you.
Yep.
Instead of actually doing something as well. So when you get into a CISO role, it's like, cool, I don't have to worry about risk. The CISO's got it now.
Yeah, that's so terrible. That's so terrible. I don't have to worry about crime. The cops got it now.
Cops got it now. I'm police commissioner. Cops got it all. I'm good now.
Yeah, yeah. That I think is. I see less of that. That is so poisonous. I see less of that. I don't see enough less of that. But people have started to learn you can delegate responsibilities, but you can't delegate risk. And CISOs that are effective will politic that. And they'll bring it up to the board and the executive leadership team. And they'll bring it up to the CEO. Not in a, hey, this is bad, I don't got this. But in a, this is what I see. This is what I've done. This is what's outstanding. This is the help I need. As a lobbyist. Not that I said it once and dropped it off on your lap, but my job is not to tell you, but to keep telling it till you get it. And I see action. But that requires a level of grit, impertinence, opportunity to keep pushing that. That's highly valued and pretty rare.
So Jeff, in his question, he talked about strategy at the CISO level, but he also had a little undertone of one other one. He had talked about things from an individual contributor perspective. If you had to look across the cyberscape and you had to think about 2022 and you had to look at it from the tactician's perspective, the individual contributor level, what do you think some of your things that you're looking out for in 22 are not at the strategic level?
I want, if I were starting my career over as an individual contributor is where I would start. I would look for people that could make their jobs superfluous, redundant, unnecessary. Ways of automating things that don't cause errors, issues, or blowbacks, right? Type 2 errors. That would be the focus. I don't need more smart people telling what ought to be done. I need more driven people doing what needs to be done. That's what I would retrain myself to be, were I starting over as an IC.
Yeah. What about technologies? What are you thinking about our important technologies for 22 that may have been previously overlooked technologies? Don't say XDR because that's not an acceptable answer.
Yeah, that's been used. That was checked on my bingo card.
Yeah. That's like the center X right there for sure.
It is.
We're done with
Jeff
those jokes.
Blockchain.
We're
done? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've stopped inviting Rick McElroy back because he keeps bringing XDR up and I just can't stand it.
Unironically?
That's the reason. Okay.
So we're not going to get away from cloud anytime soon.
Ain't that the truth?
One of the mistakes people make is they get too vendor locked in. One of the advantages I had, and this wasn't sought for, it's in retrospect. We were in the green room. I was telling my address resolution protocol.
Yeah.
Knowing that stuff, and the reason it's like I learned that 25 or more years ago, the reason it's still fresh is those fundamentals, the OSI layer, TCP/IP, subnetting, understanding the fundamentals of cloud more than the applications, right? Those things become coat hooks for me to hang new ideas on. So it's pretty easy for me now compared to then to learn something new because those fundamentals are there. I would put a lot of time into cloud and I would understand not just cloud services, but I would understand data movement within cloud elements, distinguishing applications, routes, EC2 instances, buckets. I would understand all of those as a fundamental and know them, whether you drop me in Rackspace, GCP, Azure, doesn't matter. I'd be like, okay, so what's it called here? And then that's good, and then I'm good. That's what I would focus fundamentally on.
That is good to hear that confirmation. I would agree with you, right? I think I continue to stand by if you're in this space and you're not on the cloud bandwagon, you're behind. You're behind, 100%.
Yep.
All right. I had some news articles, but I'm looking at the time now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Jack to go ahead and start the NFT giveaway. I want to talk about the NFT really quick, and I want to talk about the giveaway process really quick. First and foremost, make sure you are in Discord and make sure you do have your Discord and your YouTube linked. because the moderators will be verifying that. We've had some instances of some people trying to fraud the system, so make sure your Discord and your YouTube are linked. Second, when Streamlab tells you to enter that raffle, make sure you enter that raffle once and one time only by hitting that exclamation point one time. We will only be giving away, regrettably, one of Joel's NFTs in Q1. Not regrettably, it is still awesome, but Joel, you've asked us to space these out over the next few quarters, and so we're going to be super respectful of Joel for that, and we're going to space that out for you over the next few quarters. So we're going to give one away in Q1, and then we'll hold on to the next one and give it away in Q2 and Q3 and Q4 throughout the year. But do you want to talk really quick about the unlockable content that you've been gracious to include in that NFT?
Yeah, so I will Uber coffee to your house 2 hours.
Wait a minute, hold on, no. Pull the giveaway back. I want that NFT. I want Joel Uber coffee to my house.
Come on, Always Spicy. I got you. So 2 hours a quarter, and I will do mock interviews, review your resume, talk about career strategy, be a recommendation, get on your podcast. Ooh. 2 hours a quarter. And then these are going to layer in as we do more. Yep. So I'm very excited to support the community. Love Nathan, and he makes y'all look good.
So, look at that! Shout out to Nathan. And
to Braden.
Well done, Nathan.
Fantastic. Also,
do you want to brag really quick about both Nathan and Braden? I don't know that anybody has heard the stories in their entirety other than from the individuals themselves. So if you want to get on a soapbox about Braden and Nathan, you're more than welcome to.
So what they make people think this community is, how about that? What they represent you as are people that are grinders, work hard, are thoughtful. People that don't say no, but say, let me figure that out. Asking really good questions, doing work on their own time to come back prepared to solve some pretty tough technical issues, and doing it with a resilient smile. In cyber insecurity, even the title, you kind of think, am I really welcome, or is this a bunch of insecure people? And you're bold in the beginning, right? That is not what this is. And so it's been fantastic experience to see and work with, Nathan's a friend who is diligent and working hard and thoughtful and engaged, and shows really well for what this community is doing for the members of this community and what they're doing. So super proud to be a part of this.
I still think it's the coolest. I love how that was completely unscripted when we did that last year, and I love just how amazing that whole thing had worked out. So that was awesome. I'll go ahead and ask moderators to start pushing some questions, Joel. And I know we've got a ton of questions. Keep your questions coming in. The mods are going to continue to aggregate those questions and continue to pull the questions through and make sure that we get a good mix of all the questions. Even though Fasochi dropped a dictionary of like 50, this will not be the Fasochi Q&A section. But so don't let that dissuade you from dropping your questions in. I'm trying to tap dance here for a question push from my mod team as I tap dance here a little bit. There we go. Awesome. DevNull Zen. What advice do you have for someone who hasn't grown in a year and is stuck in the same spot? I almost made like maybe you go to see the doctor or get some lifts in your shoes or something like that, but I decided not to make that joke.
Jeff would have been all over you, pal. That would have been bad.
Like, come on, you're better than that.
So
you're better.
This feels like a very personal question, and DevNull Zen didn't say asking for a friend. So, listen, it could be a couple of things, and so I can't presuppose that I know what you're seeing that is telling, or what a person is seeing that is telling them, I'm in the same spot, I'm stagnating, I'm not going anywhere. If you don't own a mirror, you have no idea what's changing. And so it could be that I'm my own worst critic. And I am my own worst critic. So sometimes I need to talk to somebody to say, have I grown? Like I used to do these and here. And so I would make sure that your ruler works. And then number two, I am never without a goal, and I always, once a goal is accomplished or whether it becomes impossible for me to accomplish, I've always got another goal coming up. You might be the same, you might be different, but finding out what it is you want, how you want to chase it, getting help chasing it, those two things, am I measuring right? And do I have an engine that's driving me to chase goals? That helps. Actually being stagnant or not, it doesn't so much help the feeling of whether you feel stagnant or not. I have found it remarkably valuable to read biographies of people. Read Enzo Ferrari's biography. You think to yourself, Ferrari, hot cars, Italian, what kind of life he lived. The dude lived in his garage. He got rejected from applying at Fiat. He bought, and like, he was a scrapper. And most of his life, he felt like he's gone nowhere. But we look at him and, right, look at Ed Thorpe is another great biography. The book's called A Man for All Markets. And he went and beat Wall Street and beat Vegas and decided he didn't want to be rich. He wanted to live a good life. And now he's 96 years old and still giving lectures. And so look at other people's lives. So often, if I feel stagnant, it's because I'm spending a lot of time looking at the least interesting person in the room.
Let me pick on you a little bit though when we talk about looking at other people. You're not talking about comparing their successes with your failures and using that as a negative measuring stick.
I'm talking about most of the time you only see their successes. That's why they have a biography. That's why Jeff has a biography and I don't. Only successful people publish biographies. So what you do is you take this biography of somebody that's like an idol and you think, wow, they got to be amazing. And then you read it and you think, wow, I'm glad I don't live their life. That's terrible. And it helps add some balance, especially now we're working from home. We're quarantined on and off for forever. If you're in Australia, you can't get out. You can't talk to people. Nothing seems real in these conversations. That lets you look inside somebody else's life and you realize, oh, I'm not that different. That makes a big difference. And that's the feeling bit of this, which sometimes you can't get rid of easily.
I love that you.
Can I have go ahead?
No, I was just gonna say I love that you use the mirror analogy. Right? You can't, if you're not looking at yourself, you can't see what's wrong or what's changed or what's gotten better or what's gotten worse. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think there's a third element here of if you've got a good mentor-mentee relationship, and what I mean by that is if you are not being mentored by someone and if you are not actively mentoring someone else, I think it is hard to get a picture. And maybe that's just part of the mirror perspective that you're talking about. Maybe that is the mirror. But when you're talking to someone and giving them guidance, all of a sudden you realize that, hey, I actually do know what I'm doing, because they're eating up every word I'm saying, and I've done this before, and I can help them. And when you're being mentored by someone and asking them things that you don't know, how many times have I asked you questions that I didn't know, and you took the time to answer, right? And the challenge was finding the right good question. And that takes forethought. But from a mentoring perspective, you put just as much thought into your response as I put into the question. And I think that helps with that mirror component. But a lot of people are like, I feel stuck. I'm not doing anything. Well, then go do something and get a relationship or a couple of relationships that you can get that visibility into your growth and their growth or your stagnation if it's there. I mean,
I think that's bigger than the mirror thing. I think that's bigger than the mirror, Jeff. I think it's kind of a clumsy analogy, but it's memorable. The Red Sea flows into the Dead Sea, and one of them is stagnant and no life lives in it. The other one is teeming with fish. The difference between the two is one passes it on and one's a cul-de-sac. Mm-hmm. And so you got something that fits that analogy there, Jeff. If you're not passing things on, that's the definition of stagnant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This one's I think kind of personal to you, Joel, and maybe Igor hasn't heard your PhD story a little bit, but Igor comes to and says, for Joel, I always wanted to get a PhD just to prove that I can. Do you think it's a good investment of money and time?
So Igor, get your PhD. It is not a good investment.
Those are two different threads.
I love it. I love it.
Investment, should I get it or not?
100% get your PhD. And if you're worried, that's like, so Neil, I want to convince my wife that I want to get the new Indian that came out this year, but I spent all this money upgrading the Indian that I bought in 2018. How do I convince her it's a good investment of money and time? It's not.
It's not.
But I want it.
But I want it.
Yeah.
This sounds like the conversation that Carmen and I are having over my next car.
There you go. But 100% Igor, do it. And if you do it and you get enrolled, reach out. And there's things you can do early in the program that will buy you alleviation of pain later in any of these PhD programs. But if you're serious about it, 100% do it.
Why is it important? And I love how Igor says this, to prove that I can.
Yeah.
Why is that important? Why is that self-realization important?
Well, for me, I mean, I think it's very personal, pal, right? I think it's like when you were a little kid and you're jumping trying to touch the door, and eventually you were big enough to touch the door. That's what it felt like. It's an exertion of effort. It's a concentration of focus, and I don't think I'm good enough to do this. Mm-hmm. And then Joel realized, well, it's not about being good enough. It's about being kind of tough enough, stubborn enough. It's not about being smart. It's about persistence. Ooh, that's awesome, because I suck at persistence. This is going to be amazing. And so when I think about, yay, I got my PhD, I think I persisted. Yeah. That's really what it's about. Yeah. So for me, that's why it's a special little thing.
Is it okay to think that you want to get that PhD and then fail to get that PhD?
Oh, most people do. Oh, yeah. What do they call them? ABDs, all but dissertation.
Ooh, I didn't know there's an acronym for it.
Yep, most people are ABDs.
Yeah. And that is completely okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I tell you, and it's weird, I was just having this conversation with my wife today. When I was midway through my dissertation, now I'm working full time. We've got 4 kids at home. And I said to my wife, I said, I'm just done with this. I'm not learning anything I thought I was. This is no longer interesting to me. I feel like I'm just doing paperwork. I think I just want to quit this. Like, I'm paying $5,000 a quarter for it, and I think I just want to quit this. And she's like, well, in a year, you'll either be a quitter or a PhD.
Oh, ouch.
That's right. Call me doctor, baby.
And that team is a lesson for you right there.
Is she your VP of sales, by the way?
Right. Love that.
That's like what's that Family Guy reference? Be like, you know what didn't kill her? Smoking. Always Spicy. Heard
Joel,
about your
that might end up becoming my new favorite Joelism, by the way.
I want to
no longer garbage jobs. It's in a year. That's outstanding. It's so true, though.
It is true. I mean, it's a true statement. Yeah. Always Spicy comes through and says, "What mods do you have on your Indian?"
Oh, sweet. Yes. So.
He's like, yes, finally. Not cyber.
Blew the engine, got pipes on it, got longer stroke engine on it, and then when I left California, moved to a state that doesn't have a catalytic converter requirement, so punched those out. So she's loud and she's fast, and it's so great.
And how many
your neighbors hate you.
Yeah. So honestly, when I that's a thing.
How many days a year do you get to ride it up there in the frigid north part of Ohio?
Yeah, you're 50-50 up here. Yeah, and you can't split.
Yeah.
So that's 2 downsides. But I love that question.
Hey, there's room for you down here in the South. You can come down here and hang out with us.
Maybe I'll get down there on the bike.
There you go. Resident Mod. And also helping with the cyberinsecurity.tv website. Please make sure you go check it out, especially the resource page. Chris Frazier says, what new book do you recommend?
Ooh. See, you trapped me with new. Yeah. So having just finished Thorpe's book, All right, this isn't top of mind. Let me. So I got two kinds of books. I've got books that are Kindle worthy, and then I've got books that are like serious.
What's the distinction between the two?
Am I gonna write notes in it that I want to read again, or, and this is fun, am I gonna write notes in it and pass the book to somebody who's gonna read it, read my notes, write their notes, and pass it back?
Ooh.
And so that's a great way to have a conversation about a book. So, oh, you already read the last one that I recommended. All right, so
Oh, Joel's reading chat.
yeah, sorry, it's Chris. He's the host of the TV show. Come on. So it was Enzo, and then it was Thorpe, Man for All Markets, and boy, I'm going to let you down here, Chris. I am really sorry. The fiction book I'm reading now is The Name of the Rose, Umberto Eco, but that's not the kind of book you're talking about. So I will do a better job answering it, Chris.
What I didn't think about the idea of writing in the book, handing the book to somebody else, expecting them to write in it and get it back. That's do you have an active group of people that you do that with, or is that
Super
aspirational?
personal, man. It's super personal. So
yeah.
you got to do it with somebody that you trust and trusts you. So where it started with is, again, my wife, and reading like novels or mystery or like fiction books,
Yeah.
and writing in it, I bet this is going to happen. Or I bet, like, as the suspense is building and then passing it back is so fun. It's like MST3King a book. But then I realized you could do that in a shared book on Kindle. So I can take notes and have a buddy in the Kindle Family Sharing Plan, who's reading the book as well. And you can have a conversation in line with the book. You got to trust the person, and they're not going to trash it and take it as seriously as you are. Otherwise, you feel like you're lifting most of the couch and they've got the light end. But you can find that person. And I have two people like that. It's really, really fun.
Do you subscribe to that productivity tip that good billionaires, millionaires, whatever the case is, they read a book a month, or they read like 10 books a year or 12 books a year or something like that? Is that a mantra you subscribe to?
No,
I
think they're liars.
You do?
I do. I think that they're reading like management books that are like 14-point font and big that they're actually reading it. I think there's several people like Charlie Munger, who prefers conversing with dead people, right, through reading biography. It's cool. So I would recommend, if anybody's interested in this, there's a podcast. I have no ties to this at all. It's called the Founders Podcast. And the podcast owner is just a guy who reads books and summarizes them in about an hour with his thoughts. And it's an abridged version of
It's Cliff Notes. It's a podcast
wonderful.
Cliff Notes.
Listen to it while you're taking a walk or whatever, and then you think to yourself, this is how I got introduced to several of these books. Like he did a little Cliff Notes version of Enzo Ferrari, and I was like, I got to read this whole thing because I feel like you hit all the best parts for me. So I would recommend.
Was it as good?
Better because I have context, right? And then I don't see it through your eyes. I see the whole thing. So
go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just kind of curious if it was if it did justice to the book, or if the book itself was way better.
The book's always.
I got a book recommendation right now. Beneath Scarlet Sky has been a fantastic book. True story ish.
So I'm not into
it's supposedly
books
a true story.
You are, but I'll look this up. And is this the vampire one where they're all twinkly?
Oh no!
No, this is a Italian spy during Nazi invasion.
Cool.
That's all I'll say.
Cool.
Is that your Cliff Notes version of it?
That's that's the F on the test Cliff Notes version. Yeah.
There you go.
It was super good. I'm almost done with the one you and I talked about this on stream. Never Split the Difference.
Yeah. Did you finish that one?
That was a great book.
I love that
I've got
book.
one chapter left.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I know a couple people from the community have taken that book. I saw a Sec IT guy posted a picture on a plane where he was reading the book. I think a couple other folks are reading the book. Yeah, that's an awesome book right there. Always Spicy comes back with a not Indian based question. Says, how do you measure success and how do you remain on top of your game? Well, he's a little bit taller than me, at least, so it makes it easier for him to reach his game.
Come on,
Jeff.
Come on,
Jeff.
I just can't believe you're giving me grief for my jokes.
So I'm on a lag time apparently with the time zone change, or something's happening. So for Chris, the book is The Brain Audit. So if the last book that I recommended when I was here was probably like Founder's Dilemma or one of those. The next book that you should read, I think, is The Brain Audit. Super short, super punchy, super practical. It's about how do people buy and how do you take that information and bring it all the way back in products. And it's about human behavior. So
I may
sorry
read
for
that one. That one actually sounds really good.
Really good, and it's written hacker style. You'll really like it.
Nice.
So, how do you measure success? So, I've got criteria. I've got a list of things that I think define success, and the reason that's important to me is I also like to make people happy, and that's a strength and a weakness. And the weakness part is when I let other people define what I ought to be measuring success as. And so that conversation earlier about the CISO who's tempted to do all the shiny stuff, he or she are doing that because they're letting their peers and they're letting the company define their success, and they're hoping to measure up. And those guys, they always move the goalposts on you. But if you come in and no, my version of success, my definition of success is that our foundation is rock hard, and we've segregated systems and we understand where they are. We've patched systems, and that's my definition of success. Pick your criteria purposefully. And then the other thing I might suggest is pick a list of never do's. Everybody talks about to-do lists and productivities. Have a list of never do's. These are tasks or attitudes or choices that I will never make. And keep them in front of you, because you'll find yourself getting off the path and getting into I just feel like I have to. Delegate it, defer it, deny it. These are a never do's for very good reasons up front. I'm not going to do those things. And you'll find that the more focused you get, the more clear that vision of success that you thought you really understood very well 45 days ago now is super clear. How could I never see it this clear? And in 90 days, I can't believe how clear this is. How did I not know this? As you begin to choose, I'm going to never do, and I'm going to always do, and it's my criteria. That would be that's not the question you asked. But then, now that I know what my success criteria are, that's what I use to measure it. And so the whole of that is I'm defining my game. I'm defining what it means to be on top. And I don't always win, right? So most days I'm a failure at my measure of my success. And that's pretty awesome. It's supposed to be hard.
There's a lot I want to pick out on that one. Is it awesome because you knew that you gave it your all, and that is just as good as accomplishing the goal? Or why is it awesome that you failed to meet your success criteria?
So if I fail to meet the criteria you've given me for success, then I have to console myself, if I wish to be consoled, that I gave it my all. Right?
Right.
But if I set my own goal and I failed to meet it, then I think that was a pretty freaking good goal.
Yeah.
And I can learn the gap between me and that goal. And tomorrow, right, I'm making a strategic choice. Tomorrow, I'm going to get that next goal. And so it's me moving my own cheese. That kind of got off the rails there. Don't read that book. But if it's not you handed me my goal, but me creating my own goal, the goal has nothing to do with whether I can accomplish it. The goal has everything to do with what I desire to accomplish. And I desire to accomplish a lot more than I'm capable of.
So, do you have goals for 22? Do you have success criteria for 22, personally or professionally, whatever the case is?
Both.
You want to share? You feel like sharing a couple of them? Something that you're personally working on?
No.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Glad to help people, but this is my thought process.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is my thought process. And one of the reasons
I do like the I will never do portion of that.
I've never heard that before. I've never heard that one.
I it's interesting because we literally this week had to put in our goals for the year. Like it's part of our HR system, and we have to write 5, like a minimum of 5, and they have to be measurable. All these things, right? And it's written in a way of I will accomplish this by when, but it never talks about and I will avoid doing these things over here. I will never do these things. I'm gonna have to think on that one and noodle how that will change how I set my goals. But it's a really interesting concept I haven't thought about.
I believe you're acting on it when you said, I will never work for a company that's not trustworthy. That's a never goal.
Yeah, and like I think there's a few of things that are just innate that everyone, like if you call it out on if you're having your mentoring session, you got the 2 hours next quarter and you're talking with them and they say, oh, you've just identified 4 I will never do's. Did you even know that you did that? I bet there are people that have a lot of those that they've never thought of categorizing this way as part of a very tactical, these are the next 5 things that I want to accomplish as my goals for this year.
And probably your HR makes you use what's SMART, specific, measurable, accomplishable, whatever.
Yeah.
Use SMART never do's. Otherwise, that line will move on you and you won't realize it's just crossed you to the never do. I won't work for a company that's untrustworthy. What does untrustworthy mean? Have you spelled that out? Do you have hard lines? Do you know what that is? Well, no. It's just as soon as I feel like they're not trustworthy, I'm out. Well, you're going to be there until Watergate. Yeah. So I think that specificity is important. Maybe writing it down is enough.
Or you're going to be a person that changes jobs every 8 months.
Good.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Is the idea, right? You write these never do's down, similar to like a vision board or anything like that, where it's like you're always looking at them, and it's like if you feel yourself moving in this direction, it's a constant reminder that hey, you're moving away from your own definition of success criteria.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna rethink through my goals in light of that. I like that.
I think as you were talking about it, I was like, God, how would I write into, because I'm with you, like when I was thinking about some of the companies I've worked for where you got to do the goals in Workday or whatever it is, right? How would you write in those never do's in those more corporate goal setting endeavors? And I don't think that those systems are necessarily built or designed to have an input mechanism that says, and I won't do X.
Well, and it's funny because I take a totally different approach on all of these things. I'd actually be interested in the community to see what they do on this. But I'm like, read scripture every morning. You're like, that's my goal, right? Why is that not in my goal setting sheet? That's it's already a personal goal.
Because we only focus on professional stuff.
Yeah, but I said, forget it. I'm going to give you you want me to put them down? I'm not going to invent new ones. I'm going to give you the ones that I already have for me that I've already thought about that actually matter to me.
That's you setting your own
other
goals.
People do that
instead of receiving. Yeah.
The HR system is irrelevant to me because I already do the same. I already do it.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not going to invent new ones to corporatize my my goals for the year. I'm going to just tell you what my goals are for the year.
Oh, but yes, you are, Jeff, because the CEO is going to have his goal that he passes down to the VP of sales, who's going to pass down to all the regional directors.
About the HR system.
Yeah.
So you could have something like, I will never discipline somebody via email.
Ooh. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, pick your own, but like those
hard discussions are always in person and like face to face, or if necessary on the phone. Never.
So that's a positive goal. But my negative, I'll never discipline somebody over email, means as I'm writing the email, I start to think, I'm getting a little titchy here.
Yeah.
Right?
And how far do you have to go before snark turns into that, right?
Depends on the recipient.
Is a snarky email acceptable? What about innuendo? Is that okay?
No, but I like that distinction he's making there between the positive and negative, right? I will always, engage in a verbal conversation or in-person conversation with somebody, that I want to discipline, versus I'm never going to discipline somebody via email, meaning you have to scrutinize everything you write and say, does this match my goal?
Well, you can see I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time like even retraining the same thought.
Yeah.
You're right. It's got a little different context and nuance if you use the negative. I will never.
So Joel, what are some other ones like that? They don't have to be yours. They can be just ones that you've learned over time. That's very similar to that. Like, I will not discipline somebody via email.
So let me give you what you didn't ask for. There's traps that are really positives, hidden as negatives. I will never not start my day failing to work out.
Yeah.
Like, you tack so many negatives, and what you're really saying is I'm going to work out every day. That's not a negative thing.
Right.
A lot of them have to do, for me, with attitude, demeanor, behavior, and how I come across. So I can come across pretty forcefully if I'm not paying attention. I can come across as though I already know the answer, when really what I'm asking for is your opinion, or really what I'm asking for is brainstorming, and what I'm saying is an attempt to spark the conversation. But I've had people walk out of those conversations saying, I guess we're going to do what Joel said. It seemed kind of crazy to me, but he seemed so sure, right?
Yeah.
So I will never start a conversation by telling you what I think. That's different than I will always start by asking you what you think.
Right.
So that and we used to play this game. I had a group of people that worked with me that I really trusted and liked well, and we'd play this game with the directors. So you've got people working for you that have people working for them. And that was one day this week, every meeting, you can only ask questions and nobody can know what you're doing. And the lesson was to teach people how to listen. Mm-hmm. But imagine holding a half an hour one-on-one where you only asked questions and you can't let them know what's happening. So that you got to really think. You can't just say, well, who do you think is better than me in the organization? Like, you got to get open-ended questions. And what happens is that little tiny experiment, suddenly we're asking amazing questions because we realized, hey, it's not scary. I can do this. I can get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
So little things like that.
That's a good one. Caitlin wants to know, and I'm waiting for a mod to tell me in my ear whether they got the winner for the NFT, so I can tell you who that is. And I haven't seen that come through yet. Hold on, let me check my DMs. Actually, while I check that, Caitlin says, "What is something you wish you knew before entering cybersecurity?"
Oh, I wish I knew how awesome it was. I
wish I knew cybersecurity before entering it. It would have made that whole learning part way easier.
Yeah, I wish I knew subnetting. No. So I had a very aggressive early instructor who was lorded intelligence, prior knowledge over the rest of us. Just made sure we all knew our place. Very intimidating. And it was hard for me. And I thought, man, I think I picked the wrong career. But that was good training for me when you become a new CISO, because you have that same thought. So I wished I knew how cool it was, how fun, how it appeals to every bit of what I want out of a career or a job, how personal it is, how evocative of human emotions. It's just the most amazing career. So if I'd known that, I would have spent less time being a Windows NT expert. So,
a different path, but I have exactly the same answer.
Really?
I wish I knew how awesome it was 30 years ago, because I would have gotten into that right out of college as opposed to telecommunications. I learned a lot of the good foundational stuff, the OSI model, everything you're talking about.
Yeah.
I learned from it. So there was certainly some good parts about it, but I have a passion for cybersecurity that I never had in communications and collaboration.
Are you? Am I the only one, maybe of the group or in chat, who's listening right now, right? Who's scared to answer a question like, "What would you do different?" Because it's like, I don't want to change a thing because I'd be afraid that this moment right here isn't happening. And I don't mean this in like a sappy, type of way, but it's like, I am living my dream to be able to sit here and talk to thousands and thousands of cybersecurity professionals, to talk to two great experts like Joel and Jeff, to have had the life experiences around cyber that I've had. I don't want to change a thing. I don't want to have known anything more or anything less, because there's that saying, right? God, there's a football movie, if you can believe that I've watched a football movie with
Wow.
God, I can't remember.
You sure it was football?
No, it may have been soccer or basketball. I don't really know. But he talks about like, the inches you need are everywhere, right? One inch too fast or 1 inch too slow, and you miss a play, you miss a catch, yeah. And so it's like, I'm afraid of that question, because I don't know what more knowledge I would have gained, or what knowledge I may have missed out on, or what other path I would have taken to not be in this moment right here, right now.
Yeah, that's really good, man. That's gratitude.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. Like that's why I shy away from questions like that, because I'm scared. Like,
that presupposes that you wouldn't be in this situation right here, right now, as a result of better knowledge and earlier existence in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
But
Butterfly wings.
I'm appreciative too. I don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
But I just wish I had more of it.
Yeah.
I wish I started earlier. Right?
Yeah. 100%.
And that's what I'd love for this moment right now to exist with more years of experience in it, because I would have enjoyed it for longer.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's the way to answer that question.
I'm grateful. Like, I'm grateful that I am in this. In terms of like knowledge base, like I wish for the first time in my life, this idea that I need to have more hours in the day because of all this stuff that is learnable, whatever it is. There's so much going on in our space. Like, you're never going to learn all of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Devnal Zen, coming back in with another one. Do you think it's appropriate to ask your boss for clarity when they set up an enigmatic meeting that sets off your professional paranoia, or hide that you feel that way? I can empathize a little bit with what Devnal Zen is talking about. Like, you're working, and then all of a sudden your boss is like, hey, I need you for this meeting at the end of the day for 30 minutes really quick. And you instantly go, what did I screw up? I'm getting fired. What's going on? Do you think it's appropriate to ask your boss for clarity when that happens?
100%.
That feels defensive.
Does it? So, Neil, I need to meet with you at 4:30. It's lunchtime. I need to meet you at 4:30 for 30
I think there's a
minutes.
way to answer where it isn't defensive, though. Like, you can ask, like, do I need to be prepared? Is there something that I can, be prepped for this session to make it,
That's how
better
I've always.
meeting? Like-
That's how I've always approached it. Is there something I need to prepare for this meeting, or is there something that I can address prior to us getting into that meeting? I've always tried to approach that way. Joel looks skeptical. Joel looks skeptical on this one.
So I've always got a fallback plan. So if you're going to ambush fire me, nothing I can do between now and 4:30 is going to change that.
Yeah.
Number two, I'm always, my little goal for me is that I'm worth 2.5 times what you're paying me. So if you're going to dump me, you're going to burn your own house down, right? That's because I'm worth 2.5 times. And maybe we just don't get along. And so maybe you're going to ambush fire me. What can I do about that? Nothing. If you set the meeting, it's already been decided. HR's already got the paperwork. It's all done. It's done.
Right.
So the only thing I can
But
do
this
about
isn't
that is,
necessarily. This question isn't about a firing meeting. It's
right, but this is the paranoia.
This is the paranoia.
Right.
This is the paranoia, right? So Devnal Zen pulled out that. So that's what paranoia says. What is the worst case? Well, they're not going to execute me. They're gonna, right. So the worst case is
So
I'm
you
gonna
go right, look over the ledge and say,
I'm losing my head for this one.
Okay.
I'm
think how cheerful.
I'm
right?
getting Ned Starked on this one.
Right? So yeah. So and if they don't execute you, man, are you relieved, right? So when you're, it's a red light at conference for 10. So when your paranoia says, "Oh, this is it. They're going to fire me. That's why they do this thing. That's why they do this thing." Okay, can you do anything about it? Well, yeah, I can worry. I can give myself a filter. I can do that. So I pack all that stuff up and say, cool, I'll see you then. I got work to do. I got too much to get done between now and that 4:30 meeting to worry. And when I show up at that 4:30 meeting, and it turns out that they wanted to introduce me to their son who's going to be interning, and can I please show him around? I just spent 4 hours blowing off, complaining, and getting bitter. And I'm like, this is all about your stupid, there's attitude.
Which might end up getting you fired.
I knew you were going to fire me as you throw the chair through the window. So I'm less
I hate your
concerned
son.
about what they're going to do, and I'm more concerned about what my attitude is in the next 4 hours. So that's my 2 cents.
So I don't know if you saw this one in chat, but somebody did say Joel looks like he does those types of meetings.
That's actually how Joel announces how every scheduled meeting. That's how he announces it.
So Chris isn't wrong.
The Outlook calendar.
But think about it.
To be in my office at 4:30.
Who doesn't have a 4:30 meeting that I can ambush fire paranoia today?
So here's the other side of that coin, and that's a really good question. Now that I'm on the other side, and I've been on the other side of this for a while, then I'm in kind of the middle. But now I'm at the middle of my day. I've got a list of stuff that's too long to accomplish, and I've got on there, make sure you talk to Jeff about this person that I met who really wants to understand more about the product, and I think Jeff will connect with it, right? So that's what I got in mind. And I got too many things going on. And then I see Jeff, I'm like, I don't remember why. Jeff, end of day, can you grab me? Because I'm thinking this. And when I watch Jeff go crestfallen and be like, is there something else you could do to prepare for this meeting? And I'm like, wait, I don't remember why I was meeting with you, but now I'm suspicious. Is there something, hey, HR, is there a reason? Like you can set off this brush fire on either side. And so when I've been the recipient of it, I've been like, cool, see you there. And now that I'm the actor in it, I don't, like you never have these. That's not what you do, right? It's so. Yes, I
think there's a little room for both. Cool. I'll see you there. Anything I need to do to prepare.
Fair. That said with that kind of nonchalance.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Last question for the evening. Gabriel Gomes says, is there an attitude or pattern that is repeated in all professionals who achieve success like you?
So that's a very good and thoughtful question. I'm going to have to give you the most honest answer that I know. And that is, and this is going to sound trite, but it's not, and I'm not trying to avoid the question. Failure has patterns. Success doesn't. And I know people tell you otherwise, and they sell you books and whatever. But failure has recognizable patterns. And that's kind of my don't do list, because I can see some of those patterns. And then I can see how I'm tempted to them or inclined to them or repeatedly do them or habituate. So those are things you avoid. Success doesn't have a pattern. Like people will tell you, we just need to be a grinder. Okay, Jeff Bezos was a grinder. But Adam from WeWork was not. And he measures himself as a success.
I mean, he almost had $1 billion IPO for a while there.
And he walked away with 1.2.
Yeah.
So I think, and I'm not trying to be unhelpful or evasive, Gabriel, but the way that I look at it is what I just described. Failure has patterns. Can I pattern match it in my life? Then I try to eliminate it. The rest is probably success until I pattern match it with failure. You know the outline of success. You don't know what fills that outline until you discover it for yourself.
Is another way to say this really about you define your own success criteria, right? When I see a question like this, I don't think anybody can achieve success like me because I defined my own success criteria. I walked my own path. I got presented with the opportunities, and I got lucky in those presentations of those opportunities that I was able to take advantage of, and I was able to forge my future based on that. I think you have to define your own success criteria and you have to forge your own opportunities, and you have to take the risk, and you have to move yourself down the football field analogy thing that they give you to get there. I like what you say about success doesn't really have a pattern, despite what people will sell you on. Failure definitively has a pattern. You can that is documented.
I like that.
At aeons.
So like
Well,
read so Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's brain, right? Smartest person Warren Buffett knows, according to Warren Buffett. One of his maxims was just don't make mistakes. Get into a business, he says, get into a business that doesn't require you to be smart. It just requires you not to make mistakes. Because you have to be smart every day. You're going to be off your game one day and you lose everything. But if all you got to do is not make mistakes, you'll be wildly successful. And one of the things that he does, if you read any of his books or listen to the lectures on YouTube, he's kind of the grumpy old get off my lawn guy, right? He makes Jeff look young. And wait,
Love him.
He talks about inverting. And that inversion is, instead of looking to see what does it take to be successful, identify what it takes to be a failure. And you do this in companies when you do risk assessments, if you're smart and want to have fun, is you get together and say, all right, Neil, Jeff, how would we destroy INE? And we list that out. Now when we're done, now we know what to protect.
Yeah.
Instead of asking people what keeps you up at night, right? So do that to your life. What would it take to ruin Joel's life? And when you ask that question, what would it take for Neil to ruin Neil's life? They're like, ooh, like I do some of those things, but I feel like I got them under control. Not anymore. Now that you've asked, how do I ruin Neil's life? So if you asked yourself, how would I ensure Gabriel was a failure? And you listed those things and you just didn't do them. Pretty amazing.
That's actually very awesome advice right there. That's very, very awesome advice. So I think that was the last question, but Ahmad told me in my ear that they wanted to push a comment up. And so it looks like we've got a comment coming in from Chris. This is from the super chat from Chris. Said, thanks for your efforts to helping the next generation. With no college, no guidance, you are basically my professor / dean. Here's my tuition. Thank you so much, Chris, for the super chat. This is, thank you, Joel, for hanging out with us. As always on a Wednesday night. Welcome back to Old Guy Wednesday. Welcome back to 2022. Parting words for the community.
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for sharing and asking the questions and helping dig through some of this stuff. I'm not here to pontificate. You don't realize when I leave, I think through, no one's asked me these questions. And it causes me to go back and re-examine some of those things that I thought were true, thought were valuable. So I walk away better enriched by this. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Neil. Thanks for including me, Jeff.
Thanks for including me, Jeff. We'll send you back to the green room, and you and I will catch up over text in the next couple days.
That was awesome.
Never fails.
Never met his wife. I love her. That was a fantastic comment. I love that.
That was pretty good.
Well, in a year, you could either be a PhD or fail.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't you could be a PhD or not. It was you could be a PhD or you could be a failure. And it was like,
oh,
well,
yeah. Thanks for the clarity.
When you put it like that, I guess I know what my answer is. All right. Well, parting words, Jeff?
No, that was it. I thought that was a perfect way to finish up the goals for the year, right? And in a year you could either be whatever you're trying to be successful at, or you can be a failure.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. That'll be the
work. Let's go.
That'll be the mantra for the rest of the week, everybody. Whatever your goal is, when you decide that you want to quit it, you can either be that success or you can be that failure.
Yeah,
that'd be it. All right, Jeff.
I will never do whatever. Those are the two takeaways for me.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I hear you. All right, Jeff. Awesome. I'll see you around.
Cheers.
All right, everybody. That was awesome. As if there was anything expected else out of that. Couple programming notes just to make sure that we are. I'm just double checking my notes over here. Awesome, fantastic. Friday's Tea with a Hacker. Hopefully everybody got to tune into Brent's Python study course or study session last night. Looked really good. Looked like he had a lot of folks turn out for that one. I was super happy for that. So make sure you can tune into those every Tuesday for the next 12 weeks and show some love for Brent. We do have a Brent NFT that is going to come out. That will have some mentoring sessions with Brent, as well as a secret code for his Linux 101 course. So we will probably give that NFT away either on Friday morning, or we may look for other ways to make that more inclusive, but there is an NFT that's going to come out for Brent for that one. Monday, the 31st, I think, is what's around the corner. We're doing we're back in the grind for doing the resume reviews for January. So make sure you do tune into that for our resume reviews for January. Talk to somebody who's going to, we've actually gone and updated the schedule on channel info inside of Discord. So do make sure you tune into the Discord server, and under channel info, you can see that we've added a lot of the guests that we're doing interviews for throughout the course of February. Listen, I'm not going to belabor the point too much. I've really had a lot of fun with everybody this evening. It was awesome. I love you guys. You guys really are the best community ever. You can see that by the amount of love that everybody has for you whenever you come up. Or share this community, share this positivity. Let's get as many people in here as we can, and let's really grow and be a real positive force of change inside of this industry. And listen, whether you're on the red side, whether you're on the blue side, or whether you're still deciding, keep learning. And I'll see you on Friday.